Good evening and welcome to virtual classes organized by the Board of Studies, Institute of Chartered Accountants of India for the intermediate level, paper 7B, Strategic Management. Uh, uh, an important announcement that I would like to make about my schedule with you in the sessions on strategic management, that I'll not be meeting you on 9th September and that session has been rescheduled to Friday, 11th September, wherein I'll be taking up chapter 3. Our companions are going to be, as usual, think, deep dive, test drive, did you know, scholar badge, case scenario, recall, ethics, so on. And if you remember, we are on concluding session on the dynamics of competitive strategy. And in our earlier session, we had focused on the competitive landscape, strategic analysis, industry and competitive analysis, core competence theory, and the idea of competitive advantage. And today's session, we will be focusing on internal and external analysis. We did a part of it the other day also. And the other techniques that have been used in strategic management for the purposes of crafting strategies. As you can see on the left panel, I have added on the southwest a figure, talking about the paddle. It's a competitive analysis and competence analysis. These are the twin paddles of strategic analysis through which the strategists try to wade through and muddle through the wonderland of performance in competitive arenas. So I have used this metaphor to again highlight the fact that look, in strategy, external and internal, it goes simultaneously. So I have to look inward, I have to look outward, and then accordingly develop my strategy. So to my mind, this is an important metaphor, and paddling is important. Both are important. So it is not that one is occurring at the expense of the other. Moving on from the last session, it was a beautiful question by Mansha that there are several techniques mentioned in this chapter, whether GE matrix, Ansoff, and then BCG, for example, whether the companies actually use these theories or these are just certain concepts that have an academic value. This is a kind of Aeonian and a very fundamental question on the relationship between theory and practice. And like egg and hen, one does not know whether the practice comes before the theory or theory comes before the practice. But as far as management discipline goes, we know that management as a practice has existed almost, from the time immemorial, since the dawn of civilization. And the emergence of discipline of management is the development of the post-industrial revolution era. And Peter Drucker, for example, says that the 15th century was the century of industrial revolution, 19th century is the of management. So management as a discipline, has started taking shape later on. And if you remember my very first 2nd September, discussion, I had said that strategic management is an even later, entrant in the lexicon of management. And remember, we tried to, build a narrative from yearly budgeting to long-range planning, to strategic planning, and to strategic management. So therefore, it seems that strategic management as a discipline is a later, development. And this development arose from the practice and the experience of the corporations, especially after World War II. If you remember, I talked about emergence of strategic planning and opportunity for strategic behavior after the Industrial Revolution, when the firms, were competing with each other, and it intensified with the emergence of Japan as a threat to the European and American multinational corporations. So, would say that in case of strategic management, particularly, and to some extent, even in case of management discipline at large, theory and practice have been like the two pedals that I talked about, in my previous slide, with specific reference to strategic planning. And in today's class, I will be delving deeper into this issue, because this will help you to put together the bits and pieces of your chapter 2, and it will also enable you to identify and detect the logical foundation of this chapter. Now, this to my mind is a very important slide of today's deliberation. I would put it as the most important slide of today's session. And if you will look at your study material, fortunately, and as if by coincidence, it follows almost the similar kind of chronology. So it begins with the understanding of the learning curve, which kind of as if merges into the idea of product life cycle, and the product life cycle merges into the BCG matrix, and the BCG matrix kind of merges into ADL matrix, and so on and so forth. So the understanding this chronology is very important, and the idea of learning curve itself tells you that as the companies, for example, went about their business and they accumulated knowledge. This knowledge helped them, to replicate success. You see, what is the difference between intentional behavior and strategic management, which I put in the framework of theory of reason behavior, and a kind of a reflex behavior? See, you can attain success even by chance. The issue here is not being successful once. It has to be successful on a sustainable basis, right? So a company has to be earning profit on a sustainable basis, and hopefully yielding or realizing growth in revenue and growth in profitability over a period of time. And that's where I guess learning becomes very important. From this learning curve idea in psychology in 1885 to Peter Senge's, I think, learning organization somewhere in late 90s, more than 100 years, kind of apart, the management discipline actually has, come the long way. But the fact of the matter remains that learning is at the core of, development of the discipline. Learning is at the core of the success of business, because initially you introduce a product, market reacts, and the entrepreneur reacts to the market's reaction, brings about product improvements, learns by doing it, and learns from the failures, and kind of moves on. And so therefore this understanding this chronology is very important. Your study material follows more or less the same kind of a sequence, and therefore when you will read the chapter now, and against the background of this session, I am sure it is going to reveal to you, kind of newer insights. It is going to help you tremendously, even writing your exams, and so on and so forth. So this is an important kind of slide. Of course, it will reach you. I will be sharing my presentation with you, and For the time being, you can preserve it in your memory. Maybe you can take a screenshot and save it in your phone, so that you can refer to it back and forth, even in the course of today's session. So this. So as you can see, your study material talks about the experience curve, that you know, and if you remember, the primer in economics, um, cost theory or theory of firm, uh, when it explains the long run average cost curve, maybe inverted J, or even what you call saucer shaped long run average cost curve. It shows that the costs keep falling over a long range of output, or after falling, they remain constant over a fairly long range of output before these rise again. This is the impact of what is called, in part, the learning of the firm. The idea is also related to the economies of scale, but economies of scale themselves are actually indicative of learning at the end of the firm, because once you are doing business on a large scale, you are doing more of the same again and again. Your learning, improves, and you are able to reduce the cost. So no wonder, therefore, the long run average cost curve, especially inverted J, is often cited as or regarded as the learning curve of the firm. While this learning curve of the firm is a kind of a, and in today's context, the learning curves are becoming much shorter. For example, if you look at product life cycle of Walkman, Sony Walkman, it was 45 years, and from introduction to proliferation and maturity. And if you look at the these apps, the apps such as the ones that have been banned, PUBG, and the other apps, these their product life cycle is about a month, a couple of months, maybe at the most half a year. So from mind to the market and to maturity of the market, the product life cycles have become shortened. This means firms are learning faster, right? So in today's world, the success lies in learning, unlearning, and relearning at a very fast pace. So therefore, a concept of learning curve or experience curve that originated in 1885 psychology is relevant even today, as far as a sustainable competitive advantage of the firm is concerned. In the last session, a couple of persons wrote that successful corporations are not the most powerful corporations, but the ones that adapt. What is adaptation? Adaptation is learning, right? So how you learn fast enough, and therefore you are able to translate your learning into products and into services. You are able to, what you call, monetize these and develop business models, and kind of achieve success. Yes, Mancha, you're absolutely right. Due to advancement in technologies, I think in assimilation of technologies, one is the technology development of technology itself, and also is how we respond to that technology, how we internalize this technology in our in our functioning, and how we are able to adapt it to the world of business. That's why I say ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn at a very fast pace is a great kind of great attribute of successful corporations. Now another feature that I have been highlighting, and will help you kind of relate this content. Of course, the remaining part we have done earlier. So today we are going to focus only on these aspects, right? What I have been saying in the since my September intervention, because strategy is about linking the firm's internal environment, external environment. We can look at this relationship with respect to scope of the firm. So as we move from a small single product business to multi-product business, and then maybe to multi-market and multinational businesses, the relevant environments kind of change. And and because focus is on competitive environment and how are we going to compete, the relevant environment and the internal strategic advantages and understanding of those strategic advantages kind of changes. So as you can see, to my mind, this is another important table that probably you can take a screenshot and preserve in your phone right now. So these two slides, to my mind, capture the essence of this particular chapter, or this particular part of the chapter, because as I said, we are not going to discuss the competitive landscape and competitive advantages. We are going to focus on the last three aspects of your syllabus today. Of course, everything is linked, so we'll be going back and forth, but then our focus is going to be here. So this slide and this slide, for example, as you can see that when I am a domestic player and in a single business, my immediate reference point is industry structure. Yes, I will also be referring to pastel, as you call it, political, economic, social, technological environment with reference to that industry. And when it comes to my strategic thrust, again, I'm looking at inwards, I'm looking at what is my aspiration. Because, decision, for example, to grow is a deliberate decision. Strategy, as I have been saying, is a volitional behavior, deliberate behavior. Many firms do not wish to grow. And our study, Anagha, strategic analysis and portfolio analysis are not the same. Portfolio analysis can be regarded as a technique of a strategy analysis, which I will be elaborating in a short while from now. So the thing is, many companies may not actually consciously like to grow because of various reasons, right? And it's a choice that the companies make. It's not that some companies might follow the policy of internal growth only by growing organically, slowly, by plowing back the profits rather than aggressive growth. So not everybody is ambitious, no. So not every entrepreneur is ambitious, for that matter, and it is fair. I am to say, behaviorally, it is fair, so therefore, our analysis of internal strength focuses on aspirations, resources, and position on the value chain. Position on the value chain, money, right from the ultimate source of supply to the ultimate consumer of the product, there are successive stages in the value chain. And you know that differential value is created. Value is not distributed across all the stages of the value chain. For example, in fashion, you know that this at the design stage, greatest value is generated, right? Retail, for example, is another area where the value is generated. But in intermediate stages and the prior stages of merchandise value adding. So as the products become knowledge products, at the design level, maximum value is generated. So if you are a company who are designing, then of course you are making and making profits, with reference to the entire value chain. But so what you call in pharma, for example, those who are into new molecule development, right? The design, pharma design, they are making money, is it not? Those who are producing, mass drugs or bulk drugs, they are thriving on volume. Their margins are low. So some businesses might follow the policy of low margins and high volume. And at certain stages of the value chain, margins will be very concentrated, as I said, at the design stages. So when you're a single business unit, it moves like this. But once you become a domestic and multi-product, then of course dynamics of business portfolio internally become important. The whole idea of portfolio management and the matrices that you talked about, BCG, etc. These are portfolio techniques for multi-product, kind of firms. Uh, and once you move from a single product to a multi-product company, then the domestic macro environment becomes more important. Why? Because you have to look at the impact of the macro variables on the corporation as a whole, rather than specific business units. In fact, what you do, remember in my first slide, I mentioned Markowitz as the proponent of the portfolio theory. So, internally it is possible for me to balance my businesses, products in such a way that variation in one is cancelled out by the variation in other. For example, my different products can be counter-cyclical to each other. Simplest case that we take is of beverages. If I am in cold beverages and I also diversify into tea and coffee, what I am doing, my tea and coffee business is going to be counter-cyclical to my cold beverages business. And that is where, many companies, for example, Coca-Cola entered into a 100-year contract with Nestle, especially for their coffee business and tea businesses in South Africa, right? So therefore, it's a portfolio management, therefore, and portfolio balancing, that becomes an internal act of management. And that's where the various models, portfolio models of your strategic evaluation and strategic planning, go simultaneously. Planning and controlling are Siamese twins. They are part of the same. Radha asks if there's no ambition, how they just carry on the business, they survive, and they're okay with it. I mean, they're not. Many small businesses, business persons and entrepreneurs I have interviewed, they say that we are okay with whatever business we are doing. We don't wish to grow. There's nobody in the family, for example, to look after the business, or members of the family are not interested in the business. They are interested in something else. So what we do is that we are running on a kind of a survival basis, and there is a ready market for our product or for our service. We are making a good livelihood, and that is it, I mean to say. So, we appreciate the fact that not every business person and not every CEO is alike, is it not? And it is into cutthroat, kind of competition. Many companies might live, and just live on the principle of live and let live fair, I mean to say. And let us respect that diversity of business firms. In India, 95% of the firms comprise micro, small, and medium enterprises. Not every enterprise is driven by ambition, right? So fair, I mean to say. And but then there are certain companies who are very ambitious and who are never satisfied with their existing performance. They want to grow. Not only they want to grow, they want to become big, and probably the biggest in the world. So that's another kind of type of corporations. I remember when I was making a presentation on Tata's acquisition of Chorus Steel. One of the panelists asked, why is it that Chorus did not acquire Tata? Tata acquired Chorus on the contrary. By acquisition of Chorus Steel, now that ran into trouble, and now almost they have fallen apart. That's a different issue. But at that time, when Tata acquired Chorus Steel, Tata Steel acquired Chorus Steel. My response to the panelist question was that fire in the belly. So Tata had fire in the belly to grow, and from that one acquisition, Tata became from among top 50 steel manufacturers in the world to top 5 steel manufacturers in the world. So there can be ambitious, entrepreneurs, ambitious CEOs who think in terms of growing big, making it big, becoming world's top billionaires and so on and so forth. It's okay. And multinational going multinational. So the last stage is so globalization. Therefore, in your chapter comes in two ways. One is the firm strategy to go global. What are the motives of the firm to go global? What is that they are trying to achieve to globalization? And what is the route that they follow? Is it the organic route of globalization, or is it globalization through mergers and acquisitions, right? Faster growth, inorganic growth. So one dimension of globalization, as far as I understand and interpret your chapter, is the firm's motive for globalization. Other is, and of course, which is corollary to it, the impact of globalization, as an environmental factor. And you know that even if you may not be you are not a multinational corporation, yet you are affected by the factors in the market. I might be a small computer assembly, making person and an integrator who merely assembles the components into a PC. But I might be affected by international markets, international environment. Now, for example, a flood in Taiwan, that affects the supply of components such as hard disks, etc. And and therefore, the price that I will be charging for assembling a computer and the volume of business that I will be able to do because of the supply side constraint coming in from an international component manufacturer, is it not? So, but however, if you are a multinational corporation, your relevant external environment will be, as I said the other day also, the international macro environment. For example, the laws impacting the movement of goods and services, trade in goods and services. WTO, is a multilateral organization setting up the rules of the game for international trade and international investment, and then the different industries get internationalized. For example, our capital markets are internationalized. FPI is coming in, and it affects the functioning of the stock market. So our stock market is related. Maybe our international supply chain of the vital inputs. So these will impact impact me even if I am not a multinational corporation, right? But for a multinational corporation, these factors impact nevertheless. And for the multinational, even the home country macro environment and the host country macro environment will affect a lot. And we have just seen in the case of Chinese apps how the host country policy change has eroded huge amount of market capitalization of companies like PUBG. And we thrive in the pleasure of the fact that we have been able to dent the Chinese companies and the Chinese what you call economy, and this will help us to negotiate on military basis with China. Whether or not this will happen, but then that's the fact of the situation. And relevant internal environment also changes because, for example, in the multinational corporation, localization is a big issue. So, what is the relationship between the headquarters and the local subsidiary or local branch of the multinational corporation? Because if this control is this hierarchy is very rigid, then it will affect the flexibility of operations of the local company. In fact, if there's a time and opportunity, I will discuss it with reference to, for example, the various approaches and various mindsets from which the multinationals kind of operate and for example some countries, multinational, might believe in strong headquarters, tight control over the local subsidiaries, which impact their ability to, indigenize or localize their production and so on and so forth. And in turn, that impacts their business. Procter and Gamble, for example, American companies, for example, in the FMCG sector, they suffered from this superiority complex, and they thought that they will simply export the product which is used in America to India, and will expect the market to accept it. But they could not withstand initially with HUL, which is a European company that followed the policy of localization, right? So the American company Procter and Gamble learned it the hard way, and today it is neck to neck with HUL in terms of their presence in the Indian market, and how they have also resorted to the localization of their production and marketing and so on and so forth. McDonald example I had taken the other day also. Therefore, when I now these are the dynamics of competitive strategy. Dynamism comes in from here, is it not? Otherwise, much of it is static analysis. Dynamism comes when we look at the changes in the business environment, and how this environment changes also along with the scope of the firm, and how the firm itself, kind of builds on its resources and aspirations apart from, what you call the coordination and control mechanism within the firm, the strong center and a weak local, or there is a great amount of decentralization where the local units are there. And then third level is how the various local, that means I am a multinational, means I am operating in multinational various countries, and in each country I have got different kind of a resources. So how I integrate the functioning of my foreign branches into a formidable network and a combination. By the way, if you understand, almost 1/3 to 1/2 of the world trade occurs between the affiliates of the multinational corporations. So therefore, management of this internal markets among the affiliates of the firms, that becomes a kind of a challenge, a dynamic of the competitive strategy. Of course, your study material would not touch upon these details, but I hope these examples clarify to you in terms of how the external and the internal environment, external analysis and the internal analysis, that I refer to as the paddles along the same drive or same matter, and how the practitioners, kind of like riding a bicycle, keep moving these pedals, to wade through the world of strategy and to the world of business. If there are any questions so far, I will be very happy to respond. Otherwise, I'll move on. So, but it has been almost half an hour since we have focused on these two important slides of our discussion today, and now is the time to develop these ideas even further. Okay, I don't see any questions. I will summarize the discussion so far, that businesses are learning, so learning curve is very important, and I have extended this idea of learning to the idea of learning organization, given by Peter Senge in the late 90s, so 100-year journey in a way. And this learning that enables us to reduce the cost, know, and thereby enhance the margins. Also, led to the fact that there will be a market saturation. So if my margins are shrinking in the later stages of my, kind of a firm, not only it is the outcome of the emergence of what is called diseconomies of scale. Now, please remember the long run average cost curve that I have been talking about. The margins could be shrinking also because the market is getting saturated, right? So, from this idea of learning curve emerges the idea of product life cycle, right? So my initial learnings, so there are diminishing returns to the learning also. So when I am learning from my mistakes, I'm able to reduce my costs and drastically, and then the incremental returns from my learning becomes lesser and lesser, and so on and so forth. So. From learning curve, product life cycle, and to my mind, if I were to sequence it, then the Ansoff's growth matrix, and then the life cycle argument tells me that I have to continually keep introducing the new products, and so that I am always at the growth stage, I am always at the high margin stage and higher profit stage. So that a firm emerges from being a single product to a portfolio of products, right? So that's where the portfolio logic, kind of comes in, and so there. And when I combine this portfolio logic with the product life cycle logic, as if it were, I arrive at ADL matrix. So chronology more or less. By putting the years, ahead of the topics or after the topics, clarifies, in our mind as to how strategic thinking has emerged, over the years. Uh, so, rather ask, can there be more than one matrix adopted in an organization? Yes, certainly, because each matrix has got its own utility. And now, in this segment, for next, I think, uh, 30 to 45 minutes or so, I will be focusing on these matrices only. And I'm sure my discussion will further clarify uh, the contents of this chapter to you. And this slide of chronology will help you integrate the content of the chapters at your end. And so will this slide, wherein I have looked at over a period of time the evolution of the firm from a domestic single business to an international, multinational, multi-product kind of corporation. So, this. Now, therefore, if you look at the chronology, as you can see, the product life cycle concept was further applied to the domain of strategy by Bruce Henderson. Before that, by Vernon in the international firm internationalization. Because product life cycle does what? It tells about your product growth or the market, the growth of the product in a market. So in a particular market, I might be on a decline, but what I might do is that I might introduce the same product in a new market. And so if the markets are insulated means one market is separated from the other market, maybe by distance or by information asymmetry or by whatever reasons, right? In the international business, the reason could be the reason of law. For example, in India, we have we shun the multinational to the right. And in fact, whatever technology and whatever things that came in, we said that, oh, these are the rotten technologies. We use the word rotten. They may not be rotten in the literal sense of the term. That these are the old technologies which they are giving to us. Because for us, that was the introduction stage. So the product life cycle. Bruce Henderson, he's of Boston Consultancy Group, founder of BCG, Boston Consultancy Group. Uh, he kind of incorporated this idea of product life cycle into the strategic management lexicon. And in fact, the emergence of the BCG matrix is actually the extension of the product life cycle. By the way, before him, Theodore Levitt had brought this notion of product life cycle into the strategic management lexicon. So it's very interesting actually. So because we have talked about product life cycle and you have done it kind of even in your class 12, but I hope I have given you the perspective today in terms of the strategic implications of the product life cycle. So how product life cycle gets incorporated into the strategic management literature, because as I said, multinational corporations, especially in the post-World War era, what they could do is that they could introduce their products into the newer markets, and as if their products will always remain green, because in the growth stage, because the other markets, for the other markets, they will be at the introduction or at the growth stage. So the market diversification, in a way, as a strategy, ensured that the firm will always be on the growth trajectory of the product life cycle. So there might be a saturation in one market, but that will be compensated by growth in the other markets. So therefore, your textbook probably doesn't capture the essence of product life cycle theory from a strategic perspective, but I hope my deliberations so far, kind of give you that kind of insight as to how a product life cycle kind of happens. The relevance of relevance of the learning curve. See that I want to enhance my margin, I want to enhance my profitability. I would like to do it by, of course, selling it at a premium price, or by reducing the cost so that my profit margins are high. Face it, when the their products in and the underdeveloped world, they cannot charge the premium price because these countries cannot afford that price. Here they have to operate on what you call the volume basis, because their markets are very large. India is such a huge market, right? So anything here almost becomes the world's biggest, is it not? Because the market size is so big. As I said, learning is the essence of strategic management, is it not? And ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn at a very fast pace, I would put as the core of success, both for individuals as well as for the corporations, is it not? So the BCG matrix, in a way, emerges from the as if it were from the product life cycle theory, of the firm, and because certain products will be at the high growth trajectory, some would be at the low growth trajectory. I'm talking about the markets, right? And then depending upon the market share, a combination can arise. I will be making I think 5-minute or 7-minute presentation on BCG itself, with reference to Boston consultancy groups, kind of a. Yeah, I am linking. I am linking the PLC. And the chronology I have already stated. Learning curve, product life cycle, and the growth matrices. So all these are linked up, right? Okay. Now, I am picking up an animation film developed by I think TED Institute for BCG, and I will be doing a voiceover for you to understand now how this matrix, kind of which originated in 1968. It still rules the roost. So the query that these what you call these techniques, they emerge from the practice and they continue to guide the management thinkers. I will be playing this animation film, which I have screen recorded from bcg.com. I would encourage you to go to bcg.com and look at their go to their history. As you can see in the address column, our history, and then the growth share matrix. But I will be interpreting this animation film for your benefit to understand what after all is meant. So as you can see that this BCG matrix, growth share matrix, emerges from the idea of the market share and the dollar returns and the growth. And when these two dimensions are put together, it results in a kind of a matrix. And I hope you recall the strategic dimensions, how we will reach the cash to invest in the question marks and convert the question marks into stars, and how we may gradually divest ourselves of the dogs. And so it presumed that the market share is the predictor of firm performance, but over a period of time, market share, is not only the driver. So there is continuous learning, and we have to move from question mark to stars and from cows to stars very fast. And this ability to learn and unlearn and relearn at a very fast pace is going to be of success. And there are four parameters. We have to accelerate our learning. We have to accelerate, and we have to balance. I have to keep having the cash cows and invest it in the stars and the question marks. And the juggling of the strategy space is like this only. And speed, cost, and associated returns and risk is what I have to negotiate. I need products which allow me to generate cash. I need to invest that cash into the products of the future. And therefore, this funds flow, we make funds flow analysis to look at the investing, operating, and financing activities of the firm. Now I am in a way giving you a strategic insight into the funds flow statement, wherein I look at the flow of funds, from the saturated, product lines into the green and the emerging product lines. And as a student of accountancy, to lend, kind of a strategic thinking to my company, and to generate a MIS, management information system, and report. Saikat, there is no video in the there's no sound in the video, so the sound is my voiceover. So I hope you can make sense of the whole thing. So this animation, as I said, I had taken up from of course, in my last class, this is where I had left, I think, in my earlier class. So I will not talk about this anymore. Uh, Moving on, therefore, let me carry on with the analysis of the matrices only, because that is what I am here right now, and that will add to the momentum of the whole thing. So as you can see that. The BCG matrix talks about a multi-product firm, right, and a multi-market firm, right. And as I said, extends the idea of product life cycle, because certain products might be in the high growth markets, certain products may be in the saturated markets, right. And this idea of Vernon's international product life cycle, okay. So all this is captured. So all this emerges from the practice of the multinational corporation. The point that I want to make, and theorizing this practice is what is probably we guys do in academics, and we look at the phenomenon and try to provide integrated frameworks for the things. So as you can see that the every company will have in its portfolio the products, various products, and for each product it might be having a specific market share, or product category may have specific market share. Each product will be at a different stage of evolution along the product life cycle. So when I integrate the market share and the market dimensions, the growth of the market and my market share or growth of my product, these are two independent dimensions. So two independent dimensions result in 2 cross 2, 4 quadrant, 4 quadrant matrix. Cycle asks me the harvest, build, or divest. In a way, this is a question which is the link to your GE matrix. Now, how BCG matrix kind of converges into the GE matrix, and what are the fine differences between BCG and GE matrix? That is what I have also kind of incorporated in discussion here. And as I said, this will help you better understand your study material. But before I do that, let me see if I have more to say in the on the BCG matrix. Partly this responds to Cycle's question that from among the question marks, I cannot spread the entire cash taken from the cash cows to all the question marks. I will have to identify, and make a judgment about which question marks to invest in, so as to translate them into stars. Is it not? And as you can see, the what you call direction of arrow, this is very important. So from among the question marks, I select a few remainder. I get rid of, right? And the today's stars will become tomorrow's cash cows. Dogs, I need to kind of divest. If you remember the major kind of a fight, as if it were, I won't call it fight, but the boardroom war that took place in Tata Motors, especially with respect to Tata Nano. Nano became a central, emotional issue for Mr. Tata, because, of course, we had invested in it, and there were so many patents. It got such fantastic reviews in the management literature, but it was not, kind of making money. It was not able to kind of add strategic value to the firm. So Mr. Mistry wanted to divest the Nano business. Tata wanted to cling on to it. You know that there was a kind of a boardroom struggle that happened. So dogs will have a like pets. They will have an emotional value for the firm. Uh, the question is, can't we do anything about the dogs except to ultimately divest? We can. I may not be able to give you immediate examples on this. Maybe I will be able to give you some examples also. That you have to find a value in the past, because dogs are your past products. Can we attach an antique value? Can we attach a sentimental value, emotional value, and connect with the product, and then kind of even try to use these dogs as possible cash cows for our businesses. I'll give you an example probably that will help you understand it better. Uh, you would have heard of this product Caravan. Caravan is a radio like kind of a product where uh, you know over 5,000 a song bank is embedded in the memory of and that song bank, that song database now kind of variously accessed by artists, by the owner, and so on and so forth. So what this company has been able to do is that it has been second, irrespective of the issue over which Nano failed. Fact of the matter is that somebody wanted to cling on to it, right? And you had to liquidate it or divest it, is it not? And maybe rational analysis tells you get rid of this. Emotional analysis tells you no, we should cling on to it, and there is a kind of a tug of war. Yeah. So the point that I was making is that what do you do with this? You do a retrofit. Retrofit समझते हैं आप लोग? You endow the product with a nostalgic value, and maybe in that case you can survive the dogs. For example, in the music industry, gramophone records have always been had almost been written off, dead. They were initially replaced by cassettes. That explains the rise of T series in India. Then from the cassettes to the CDs, and from CDs to the just download the song portals, the downloadability. So where are the vinyl records? But see, now vinyl records are also being sold and marketed, and even those record players, vinyl record players, are regaining the market, and that market is the nostalgia. So what it is not that it is impossible to deal with the dogs, right? It is eminently possible to do with the dogs, but then of course you have to strategize, and you have to kind of even innovate. So companies have done this. The other day I was talking about Surf. The brand Surf has been under more than I think 100 years now. So what they have done is that they have continually kind of invested in this, have improvised upon it, brought in new versions of it, and so that the product and the brand kind of continues to be there in the portfolio of HUL even after 100 years since launch. So that's the beauty of strategic management to my mind. So this is where you defy the life cycle kind of a theory. And anyways, I have said that we need to distinguish the PLC, the firm life cycle, the industry life cycle, that is the organizational life cycle, from organismic life cycle. In organismic life cycle, birth, growth, death is all destined. But in the organizational life cycle, in the firm life cycle, it is possible to arrest these. It is possible to be forever young, forever 21. This is the brand, right? So you can always be young through your management of the business portfolios. I think so much so for the BCG matrix, and I we can do this BCG simulations both at the corporate level and at the business level, product portfolios. So one caveat, one understanding of the BCG matrix, that it is all about products. So the subsequent, although it's not subsequent, almost contemporary, McKinsey's, there's GE, kind of a matrix. What it does is that it extends the idea of this BCG matrix not only to product but also to the strategic business units, right? So you can hive off certain businesses, disinvest, spin off, and you can invest in other businesses, and so on and so forth. So it allows you to, do so. Now this slide is interesting to be kind of very honest with you, that here we are looking at the BCG simulation both at corporate level, and you can see here the unit of analysis is the business units, and at the business level, unit of analysis is the products, is it not? And would you like to kind of take a test drive? I'll be very happy to see your responses, and maybe we'll see if it can, kind of, if it comes from you, I will be very happy. I'm sure it will come from you. Where are we? Here, I guess. Okay. A test drive. Use your knowledge, and can you construct, for example, a BCG matrix at the corporate level for Tata? Which product you will put in the dog category and star category, cash cow? Will you have something to say on this? Take about 5 minutes. Let us see whether there are any responses immediately. It would be great to hear from you. Can we do a corporate level BCG for Tata? I don't see. Okay, your responses will keep coming in as we discuss. However, as I said, BCG is specific to products, right? It looks at firm as a portfolio of products, and it prescribes what is called the, now how this product life cycle emerges into BCG is also evident from this this figure, as you can see on your screen. How Tata started with Indica, and then improvised upon it, and it comes the second generation of cars and third generation of cars and the SUVs, right? And within a span of 20 years time, and how a product portfolio is generated, and how we can apply, for example, we can put these different cars into the importance of the matrix, and kind of look at Tata Salt for cash. Yeah, absolutely, second, spot on. Second, Tata, you recognize Tata Steel. Yeah, so there will be certain, not Tata Salt, it's Tata Consumer. So it's a whole division of consumer products which has salt, and then what, tea and Tata tea, Tata tea and Tata Salt, and then another maybe. Uh, so the Tata Consumers. So Tata Consumers serves as a cash cow, and the cash generated here can be invested into the products. Is it not, for the other companies? Interestingly, BCG matrix, for example, is still about resources generated from one business to another. And of course, one form of generating the resources is divestment. So when I divest, for example, what Indian government is doing, it is doing public sector disinvestment. So, and the money that is raised from the public sector disinvestment is, agriculture and welfare. Okay, Radha has tried even BCG matrix for the car business. It is good that you are trying, you are contemplating, and keep refining these ideas yourself, because that is where the ultimate learning kind of happens. The point that I was trying to make was that the BCG matrix focus is essentially on the products, product divisions of the firm. This idea is further developed by the McKinsey's GE matrix, which says that it can be anything. It could be brands, it could be even whole businesses, and so a corporation, as I said, is a portfolio of businesses, right? So you can disinvest in particular business, maybe in whole or a part, raise the money from here. Even the chartered accountants, for example, they look at intercorporate investments and tunneling of the investment. For example, when Tata Steel purchased Tata Chorus, some analysts say that they use the cash generated from the oversubscribe of Tata Consultancy Services (TCS) to buy that one, right? And this act of raising the money for one purpose and utilizing it for another purpose has been questioned on ethical and legal grounds, and Indian business groups, in fact, business groups all over the world have been, kind of accused as if it were of being the networks of companies. In each, you look at Tata Steel, there will be tens and 15s of subsidiaries, and if you look at Tata Group as a whole, there will be about, I think, 400, 500 subsidiaries. Reliance had 500, 600 subsidiaries. So that when the kind of split in the family occurred, there was a big challenge. How to reorganize and restructure the business. Now the point that I am trying to make is this: that apart from generating the revenue out of the cash cows and flowing it back in other businesses, so that is one assumption of the BCG matrix. But what can also happen is the kind of tunneling that I have talked about. You raise money from one source and you utilize it another source, or you divest some stake in a particular particular business, utilize that money to invest elsewhere. These are the strategic. This is called strategic financial management. Within the firm, wherein you are trying to look at where will your money get you the highest return to your shareholders. Is it not? So, but this process is taken up further by the GE matrix, which I will take up here. Yeah. So this matrix does in fact two. What it does is that it says that in portfolio management we say buy and active strategy and passive strategy. In active strategy, we are constantly revising our portfolios to generate a higher return and reduce portfolio risk. And in a passive strategy, we follow a buy and hold, kind of a policy. So this is called dynamic portfolio management, right? So the GE matrix, red light, yellow light, and green light, kind of matrix. Your study material captures this matrix. So I will recommend you to read this matrix carefully from your textbook. But what I am trying to do here is that to explain the fine difference between BCG matrix and the matrix. And the fine difference is that the GE matrix is not only talking about the products, it's also talking about the businesses. It is truly looking at a multi-business, multi-SPU, multi-strategic business firm, and then is saying that certain strategic units better you divest or harvest, certain units you hold or observe the your light says caution, and there are certain greenfield industries kind of coming up. This is where you need to invest in order to strategy. So the questions that occurred earlier, in terms of, for example, BCG matrix and the buy, hold, and harvest and divest policy, which Mansha raised, I hope gets answered now, and you are able to situate BCG matrix into what I say into the GE matrix, wherein what is the major difference? The major difference is that whereas BCG matrix is talking about product portfolio, GE matrix is talking about business portfolios. Shall I write it once again so that it is amply and loudly clear to you? The differentiation that I am making is with respect to product portfolio, which is the hallmark of your BCG matrix, over the business portfolio. This can be different businesses. So I can hive off a certain, and you will realize that, for example, HUL was into animal feed business too, but they hived it off to Godrej, and Godrej took up their animal feed division. I think they are doing jolly well as far as this is concerned. So, and this hiving of businesses comes not only from this what you call profitability or revenue considerations. At times, it also comes out of your strategic vision. I will give you examples with respect to the strategic intent or strategic vision. Uh, Wherein you kind of, in order to align your businesses along with your vision, and what you do is that those businesses that do not contribute directly to your purpose, you hive off, and the ones that they cater to your purpose, you acquire them, and example could be, for example, ITC. Now, ITC has been very consciously trying to get out of that cigarette business, legal cigarette business, kind of perception in the mind of consumers, and it has the vision of emerging as a well diversified FMCG, fast moving consumer goods industry. So what it is doing is this: it is not able to hive off its cigarette business because it is there in the form of cash cow with its 70%, I think, more than three-fourths of the revenue and profit comes from this business. But they are consciously trying to reduce its contribution and enhance the contribution of the other FMCG businesses of ITC, whether and FMCS, fast moving consumer services. You know that they are into hotels, and they are into the, they are into stationery, right? They are into groceries and so on and so forth. So the portfolio theory, therefore, has stand on its own. Although I have already stated that we can, in terms of the chronology of the events, I can extrapolate the product life cycle theory into the portfolio theory. I hope if you could type in yes or no quickly, that will kind of assure me whether you are able to kind of figure out, therefore, the relationship between the BCG matrix and the GE matrix. So that's the point that I wanted to make. You can quickly type in yes or no, so that kind of this will assure me that are there with me on the same page as far as this chapter goes. Yeah. Any responses? I hope you all are with me on the same page as far as the transition from ECG matrix to EE matrix is concerned. Yeah, good. Thank you so much. In the same vein, now I am bypassing Ansoff for the time being, because the momentum is like this. What is the momentum? Product life cycle to matrix, BCG matrix, from BCG matrix to the GE matrix, and from GE matrix to ADL. In fact, if you look at the chronology, you will also understand that ADL comes in 1980s, right? So, but then this linkage is, will really excite you as far as I can feel, and this will give you absolutely, kind of new insights from the chapter as you read the ADL or third digital matrix. This relationship, kind of, and this, kind of results into a kind of a storytelling in strategic management, right? Don't have to mug up anything. The story becomes clear, as if on its own, right? Um, as you can see from the BCG, I move to GE, same color that will help understand. And from GE, I move into ADL matrix, right? Back to the presentation and see how even more interesting insights will unfold when we move to BCG to G is not clear. As I said, BCG is about product portfolio. DE is about business portfolio, right? So different firms in the same group, right? So you move from the product portfolio to or it can be anything. It can be even brand. So G is more generalized matrix of the uh, product and market, attractiveness, right? Radha, I hope point is now clear. Moving to the ADL matrix. Yeah, I haven't got ADL matrix. Yeah. Now the ADL matrix, makes the relationship between the matrices and the PLC theory even more explicit. The point that I made at the outset of my discussion. Why? As you can see, it links the industry life cycle, so life cycle theory, with the competitive position. So now you can see that it talks about Milsberg talked about strategy as a position, right? Apart from plan and apart from ploy and perspective. So we can look at strategy in very many ways that I have already talked about in my first interaction with you. So as I said, planning is the dominant theme in all the management books. It is not that strategies are always planned, right? They also emerge. And we had done the relationship between emergent strategies and the planned strategies, right? Anyways, this ADL matrix, as I said, it makes the explicit the relationship between life cycle theory and the positional matrices that we talked about. So it says that if you want to, and if you are in a dominant position and you're an industry first mover, you have to give an all-out push in the embryonic stage. Growth stage, you have to hold that dominant position, and even later stage, if you remember, high market share and the low growth, you might have to make a choice whether to retain this job or not. Is it not? And in the mature, it is a cash cow position, grow with the industry. So what is happening is that this matrix is linking the strategic position enjoyed by the firm in along with the industry life cycle. And if you are in a weak, so I started with the dominant, that we talk about the weak. If you are a weak competitor, weak player in the market, in the embryonic stage, you have to take a call whether you want to get up and get going, or you want to simply get out of it and have your peace of mind and maybe use these resources elsewhere. And but if the industry is growing, maybe you can think in terms of turning around, responding to the market criticism, engaging in product development, investing in brand building, and then turn around. But as you can see, a weak position inevitably is associated with an abundant, kind of an argument as far as strategic thinking is concerned. So between these two extremes and the dominant positions, there can be intervening positions, and that's how the ATL matrix comes with a 5x4, that is a 20 cell strategic, kind of a template with you to take a call whether to hold on or to divest or to invest in a business line or in a product, and so on and so forth. So the distinguishing feature of the ADL matrix lies in what you call integrating the life cycle theory with the competitive vision. So I hope, therefore, the transition between the successive models of strategy formulation. So far, please note, I have very kind of deliberately, as if I have stayed clear from what you call entering engaging in a discussion on what you call Ansoff's matrix, which I will be doing. Let me just go back to the slide that I was before this ADL and EE matrices. Give me a minute, please. I seem to have lost track of the slide that I was. I think this was the slide that I was talking about. Yeah, the transition from the BCG matrix to the GE matrix to the ADL matrix. It's not always necessary that the matrix succeed. You see, tools are never a panacea for corporate success. Is it not? Tools in the hand of the craftsmen, strategy makers. For example, really, if ever you will look at the discussion of these matrices in a storyline, starting from a learning curve to product life cycle curve, and then into the matrix, and then from BCG to ADL. So these elements have always been there, but then how do you integrate these? That is very important. Each tool is capable of yielding tremendous insights. Product life cycle theory itself is a huge learning device. I mean, when it comes to understanding strategy, and as I said, in the static sense, PLC is also about the chess. Intro game, opening game, and the middle game, and the end game. Right? Is it not? So many a times, if your end game is good, you can turn around, and you may come out victorious, or at least you may convert a losing game into a draw game. If I were to borrow the analogy from chess, is it not? So I think we will take a break at this moment of time, at this juncture of our discussion. It is a crucial juncture that we have reached today, and wherein I have been trying to highlight, and I think you have acknowledged in terms of your affirmations, that I have been able to explain transition from the BCG matrix to the GE matrix and to the ADL matrix. A break for 5 to 7 minutes before we come back and visit Ansoff's theory. Okay, so that. that we had, you will find this yourself where we left. And meanwhile, if there are any questions on the discussion so far, you are most welcome to revert, and I will try to respond. Someone has, in a way, applied this, notion of BCG matrix in the dynamic theory, of the firm, and probably in a way it also, corresponds to that life cycle theory of the firm. That how initially, when there are question marks, we are championing the products and the new technologies and the new markets. We are, investing it. We are building it, persistently, and trying to nail it, and kind of realize our profitability and what you call revenue growth objectives, and convert these into shining stars, right? And then the stage might come when the same product, turns into a how, and eventually, maybe goes out as a faithful dog. So, in a way, this is another reinforcement of the life cycle theory with respect to the product market matrices that we have talked about. This product market matrices comprise the soul of competitive strategy, in as much as, for example, a very important concept in strategy. In fact, strategic intent itself and the strategic mission is always stated with reference to the product and the market, right? So this is how everything gets linked up, so to say, in the HR, in the strategic management. Good that we don't have many questions so far, and that means we have been able to develop this understanding of these matrices as a means of strategic analysis, along the two dimensions of product and the industry growth, or the firm and the industry growth. And as you can see that this kind of analysis is linked. There is a kind of a legacy coming from the learning theory, from the learning curve to the product life cycle theory and to practices. Now, into one more dimension of and one more type of matrix that I will be that is there in your syllabus, in terms of Ansoff's analysis of the. I will also try to link this up with you, and and put it in a kind of a perspective. To see if I can quickly come to Ansoff. Is it? This is your Ansoff's growth matrix. This is here, and as you can see, this 2x2 matrix is essentially relevant for the firms at the on the verge of pursuing growth. That means they have been successful startups, and they have got stabilized into in the industry where they belong, and now they face the dilemma terms of their direction of their growth. And one strategic tension, which has been prevalent throughout, is that whether we grow by doing more of the same or we do, different things. So, so that means whether to concentrate in the product line that we are in or whether to diversify. Now, that has been a great strategic tension or strategic debate. And again, the research is inconclusive uh, uh, whether diversified corporations are better or what you call non-diversified corporations are better, and whether diversification in related fields, that is called concentric diversification, that is desirable, or even unrelated diversification is a winning strategy. So it's a idea of figure. It also links up with the product life cycle theory or business life cycle theory, because it pertains to the growth stage of the firm, not the introduction stage of the firm. So let us kind of get it. Look at how this strategy matrix kind of works. Okay, I put it on the slideshow. What is what does this matrix show? That the growth alternatives available to the firm are you develop the new products, or you develop the new markets, or you diversify the product and market configuration that you are presently in. This disturbance, please tell if my audio is fine. Controls, would you like to check the audio, please? I am on the same system, wearing the same gadget here. Controls, please confirm whether my audio is fine. I would like to hear it from the learners and the participants. Please tell me if the audio is okay. Tata, please tell me if audio is fine now. Vijayji, please see if the audio can be modulated. Participants, kindly confirm whether you are getting the audio correct. By response, hello. Please tell me if you're getting my audio fine. Tell me whether my audio and the video, and of course the screen, the slideshow, with audio and video. Perfect. Now, this Ansoff's growth matrix, as I said, it again, reverberates the idea of life cycle theory, because this pertains to the firm at the growth stage. Now, the strategic thinker, is in a kind of a dilemma, or is trying to figure out what is the best way to grow. right? So, other products in the same markets via a penetration strategy. Uh, it is applicable even, by the way, for this. The question is, I am getting into an existing market. The question is, how do I go about it? And Ansoff recommends a penetration strategy. uh, the cost of use the penetrative pricing to at the. This is what even Geo did. When it came with the plan and they actually offered it free. That's how and quickly seized a sizable chunk of the telecom services market in India, and how they have followed it up, with the kind of eliciting investment from Facebook, So that's one way where you kind of you grow. As I said, this growth matrix can also be utilized for planning business startups, is it not? So Reliance Telecom sector was a kind of a startup wherein they got into this mobile telephony industry, right? So other avenues are that you do it by not what you call competing on the price, but you bring about differentiation in the product, and you engage in the product development, kind of a strategy, and you come out with superior products or superior offering than your competitors in the existing markets. So once you are operating in the existing markets, you will find it linked with the Porter's business level strategies. The two avenues that are available to you is that through the price leadership or through product differentiation. So if you look at the northern, sphere of the matrix, from northwest to the northeast, from market development, you are in the existing markets. So your arena, strategic arena, is the point is clear, and the examples that I have given. Study material shows that BCG developed managing portfolio of different business units or major product lines. Inside is business units, and BCG was more of a product portfolio, kind of. Now, so it's not a question of being study material being right or wrong. It's between one form of matrix analysis and the other form of matrix. Either I am wrong or the study material is wrong. No, it is not that. It is about the emphasis. So, if we look at the Ansoff's matrix, which primarily is for the firm at the growth stage, but which I said can also be used for entry level strategies. One, the northern matrix, the northern quadrants, northwest and as well as the northeast quadrants, consider existing market Let's move over to these quadrants of the matrix and look at objectives that it gives us. That either we do market development. It is more or less the logic extension of the logic of Vernon's product life cycle theory. That what you do is that you introduce your existing product. The product was maybe you had introduced it in America for the market. So you are developing for burgers. Or Vimla say, why is the audio still you on, or is it due to the speed at which I am speaking, or maybe some connectivity issue at your end? Vimla is from Uttar Pradesh. West Bengal, Saikat also is complaining of audio. Gurgaon, it is okay. Seems like receptiveness of audio and video is varying across regions. The connectivity issue, I guess. But that also reminds me of a very interesting, kind of a aspect of it. For example, international stock markets and international capital markets, right? Markets, whether the price movements in one market, follow or lead the price movements in the other market. Yeah, the lagging will always be there, Animji, from Andhra Pradesh. And I will try to modulate my voice such that it reaches you absolutely fine. So the example that I was giving was that, when I of is differential in the different markets, then there could be arbitrage opportunities. So, for example, what some stock markets of the world, what they do is that they modulate the transmission in such a way that same bit of information reaches markets or investors in the different locations, at the same time, or within the same time, such that there are no arbitrage opportunities. So that's an interesting aspect of connectivity. Okay. Now, West Bengal seems to be, kind of not getting the sound right, and so is Ahmedabad. Radha is not able to connect. Kindly bear, because it is a factor over which I would not have any control because connectivity is a technological issue. However, I will rest of my session I will conduct at a slow pace so that you are able to decipher what I am trying to say. Because you have mentioned that example of stock market is also not audible. What do I do? I think I will revisit Ansoff's growth matrix, and as I said, and shall I also type it in because that will simplify the thing. Only thing is that I will not be doing a kind of a what you call slideshow. I will be doing it actually uh, on the slide. So there could be a little bit of difficulty in kind of figuring out the font size. I will enlarge the font size also. I will do the live. So I will type in also so that you are able to kind of decipher. The point that I made about the Ansoff matrix are like this. The Ansoff's matrix is applicable uh, um, to a firm in the growth stage. So it offers strategic alternatives with reference to products and markets. Yeah, I'm left with half an hour. My typing is not as fast as my speaking is, but I hope this will help you, kind of understanding because you have been consistently complaining that you are not able to hear the voice. I hope you are able to watch uh, this live. Of course, remember I had said that we can apply this. In to the startups. So I can, in a way, apply Ansoff's matrix if at the of the firm. Although typically Ansoff's matrix is growth is it is applicable in the growth level. So I hope you are able to see me typing in live. Um, uh, So I have talked about the northern and quadrants of the matrix pertaining to what you call the the markets, as you can see, the existing markets, right? So when it comes to the existing markets, what are the options available to a firm? And we saw that in the existing markets, you may introduce the the existing product and you follow a penetration strategy, or you come in with differentiated products and you engage in what is called new product development. And as I said, in a way, this logic is taken up by Michael Porter when he talks about the business level strategies, where he says that either you compete on cost or you compete on features or differentiation. Until here, we had discussed, and because of the audio problem, there was a problem, and now onto the southern quadrants. As you can see, the southern quadrants of the firm, the growth matrix pertains to the new markets. So if a firm is aspiring to grow by entering the markets, what are the product options, with it? It can sort to market development in sync with the product life cycle theory, because product life cycle is applicable to a market. But when I shift the market, when I move to the market, a particular product which is at a saturation stage in one market may be in a market. So I can, engage in what is in Ansoff's terminology called market development, or I can actually customize my products for the new market, and that is where the real diversification occurs. So in terms of Ansoff, diversified corporation is the one which is offering different products in different markets, right? So that's what is a diversification in the Ansoff's terminology. So, and as I said, even this can be linked to the product life cycle theory, because Ansoff's growth matrix, as the name suggests, is applicable to the firm in the growth stage. But I have also added that we can deploy the same matrix even at the introduction stage of the firm too. And even for entrepreneurship, where in the business startups, we can look at the Ansoff's matrix by kind of advising the entrepreneurs whether to enter the existing market with the same products or the similar products, or whether to differentiate it, and or whether to enter the new markets, altogether cultivate the new markets for the either the existing products or you customize the new products for the new markets. Is it not? I have added a supplement to the Ansoff's matrix also. Yeah. हाँ. अच्छा, वीडियो ऑफ कर. ओ, अच्छा, ओके ओके ओके, ठीक, मैं समझ रहा हूँ आप ये कहना चाह रहे हो, है ना? हाँ, ठीक है, मैं करता हूँ, इसको करता हूँ, क्या भी कर. अच्छा, अपना कैमरा बंद कर दो, आप ये कहना की कोशिश करो. मैंने कैमरा बंद कर दिया. अब ये देखिए, तो अभी थोड़ा बेटर हुआ है. बच्चों को थोड़ा दिक्कत तो आ रहा है यार, लेकिन पीपीटी तो चालू रखें ना, इसको पीपीटी चालू रखें इसको. अच्छा, ठीक है. Now, yeah, thank you. Kind of modified the as growth matrix, and from 2 cross 2, I have extended it to a 3 cross 3 example. And what I have, kind of tried to build in is that in a moderate scale. So I have brought in a moderate scale, modified, kind of a dimension in between the existing and the new. So to enhance the strategic options, available to a firm. Now, for example, when Apple customizes its product to the Indian market, maybe by compromise on certain features, cost. This is a limited modification. This is not an entirely new product, but the resort to what you call aloo tikki burger, or the vegetarian variants within its product portfolio. It is a little adaptation. It is a little modification of the existing products in the new market. So from 2 cross 2, this matrix gives from 4, it gives you kind of a 9 possible strategic alternatives with reference to your growth strategies. Again, even at the cost of repetition, may I suggest that, for example, I use this Ansoff matrix even for, taking up my entrepreneurship development sessions, right, with the MSMEs, and so on and so forth. So wherein, we talk about, incremental innovation in the product to suit, to either penetrate the existing markets or to cultivate the entirely new markets. To give you a beautiful example from the MSME sector in India, this is I met an entrepreneurial couple in Hyderabad. I think they live in this where this ICFI is situated. The place, I am forgetting the name of the place. That is their home. Banjara Hills, yeah. So it's a couple from Banjara Hills whom I had met, and interviewed. And what they had done, they had utilized these heating elements to develop an entirely new industrial product. For example, boilers. So what they did, they put a lining of the heating element in the boilers. Boilers are used in textile industry, in food processing industry, sugar industry, right? Wherever heat is the catalyst for the chemical change, is it not? So, and the conventional boilers will use either they are wood fired or they at the most they are gas fired. The boilers. But in either case, in the wood fired and the gas fired, what you call boilers, there is always a gap between the source of heat and the recipient of the heat, and therefore there is a heat loss. And this heat loss is energy loss. It has got cost dimension. So they thought of a new and unique method of embedding the heating elements as a layer in the boilers, right? And they demonstrated to the all these entrepreneurs in sugar and chemical industry and textile industry that they could save tremendous amount of money by resorting to, and it doesn't require much product modification. Same boilers, they can embed the heating elements. So what I'm trying to say here is that when I kind of expand this Ansoff's matrix from 2 cross 2 to the 3 cross 3 matrix, now that is where I have the option of not being radically new, but even moderately new will serve the purpose. Sanjay asked me the difference between new markets and the new target groups, because you know that market segmentation, is always there. For example, when you look at the cars, the cars are the hatchback car segment, and there is a sedan segment, and there is a SUV segment. Market is for cars, but within the market there are got these separate segments. And within this these separate segments, you are targeting a specific position to, kind of hit. So this, and as I mentioned in my probably first or last intervention, that is on 5th September, that this unit actually has a lot of marketing bias, and marketing strategy is about segmenting, targeting, and positioning, STP framework. This entire unit is on kind of STP framework. Although what I have tried to do very painstakingly today is to, kind of give you a framework to study this particular chapter in the mainstream of strategic management, wherein I have linked and I have developed a chronology the concepts used in this chapter, namely cost leadership, product life cycle, and then these position matrices, and of course now we are doing what you call Ansoff's growth strategy. So much so about the various matrices that are there in your syllabus. So I hope that these give you this introduction gives you enough insights. One issue that we need to constantly remember is that whether I am, at the uh, trying to pursue growth, or pursue entry, every strategic alternative not only has the reward payoffs but also the risks. And the strategic risks comprise not only in terms of choosing the wrong strategy, but also by not adequately implementing the right strategy. So, in strategic management, apart from strategic formulation, strategic planning, implementation plays a very important role, and that is where we need to understand the transition between strategic planning and strategic um, management. Ratha asked me, so can we this can we use the modified growth matrix for exam purposes? Certainly yes. But to be on the safe side, as I said, you please give that 2x2 matrix, and then while you are writing your answer and establishing your arguments, highlight the fact that we can modify this matrix into a 3x3, and wherein greater insights and more strategic alternatives come alive for the strategy formulators or strategy makers. Now, the next 10 minutes or so I will be spending to deal with the other aspects of your chapter, because here what I have done is I have woven in seamless story starting from my slide on the chronology of ideas in strategic management to the scope of the firm, and then these matrices. However, this chapter is also about, as you can see, the strategic analysis in the larger context of the term, because all these matrices just focus on the competition part. They do not take at the look at the environment as a whole. So therefore, an important aspect of strategic analysis, which is about environmental analysis that you are already aware of, we have seen the external analysis, looks at the SWOT and the TOWS. In fact, another important point of view from your examination perspective is the difference between SWOT and TOWS, right? They use the same phraseology: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. But the key difference between the SWOT and the TOWS is that TOWS take the SWOT argument to the kind of strategic choices kind of stage. So whereas SWOT gives you a understanding about the challenges and the opportunities emanating from the business environment and an assessment of the firm's strengths and weaknesses. TOWS takes it to the next level of strategic choices, and this is where your study material talks about the uh, the TOWS matrix, taking the SWOT to the implementation level. Or I have overlaid it with the certain idea as you can see in the highlighted versions, let me also highlight these aspects so that there is a consistency of communication with you on this. Just a minute, let me fill the thing with the same yellow color so that there's a consistency of communication. Colors also communicate, no? Okay. Now this is the language coming from your linear programming. I you have done some course on business mathematics, and you have done linear programming and dual of the linear programming, max min min max principles. So here TOWS matrix is giving you the principles of strategic behavior with reference to the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats conducted in the SWOT analysis. So I will devote 2-3 minutes with this discussion to clarify. But I hope by now itself it is clear that even though SWOT and TOWS use the same expressions, namely strengths, weaknesses for internal analysis, and opportunities and threats for the external analysis, what TOWS does is that it gives you additional principles of strategy formulation. These 4 principles I am going to discuss in the next 2 to 3 minutes with you. But these 4 principles are also self-explanatory as far as this matrix goes. However, moving from northwest, so if environment is benign, is full of opportunities, and organization has capabilities, the objective of the strategy maker has to be to maximize the maximum profit, max, kind of. And if environment is full of threats, so from the northwest I'm coming to the southwest quadrant, but organization has strengths. For example, you have reserves available in your balance sheet. Then objective has to be to maximize the minimum profit that you can make. So in other words, the Western quadrants, about profit strategy, profitable strategy, right? And as we move to the Eastern quadrants, whether the northeastern or the southeastern quadrants, here we are taking a kind of a defensive strategy, wherein we are kind of thriving on the environmental opportunities, in the wake of organizational weaknesses, to minimize the maximum loss that I can incur. So, and when environment is full of threats and I am also weak, and as you can see, min principle, minimize the minimum loss. So this is 4 TOWS matrix with the 4 principles of strategy formulation. Radha asked, why did the need of TOWS arise since SWOT was already there? Even the knowledge proceeds incrementally. So yes, SWOT gave us the perspective of identifying strengths and weaknesses and environment. SWOT itself is made up of 2 analyses, ETOP environmental threat and opportunity profile, and SAP, strategic advantages profile. So SAP and ETOP, when they are crossed together, it becomes a SWOT analysis, right? That is a one increment in a way. And another increment comes in the TOWS, wherein you are adopting the principles of strategy formulation, which the strategy makers should keep in mind. I have elaborated it even further, and because how do we operationalize these matrices? How does it all happen in practice? Because that was the first question that I acknowledged as the scholar badge for the scholar badge from Mansha. Are these theories, or are do these matrices have a practical value? These do have a practical value. These are implementing, and these are implemented with the help of big data, analysis. But mortal teachers like me and the usual textbooks, they just give you the idea, the final outcome in the form of SWOT or TOWS or BCG. They do not explain, how these are implemented, because it is a very high end, what you call, calculation and quantitative method that goes into the construction of these strategies. So, but this slide that is there on screen at the moment, gives you some more insight into how to construct these matrices. So what you can do is that, whether the external environment or the internal environment, you can identify, key variables. Here you have seen 4 variables each, right? And then with reference to the correspondence between the strengths and opportunities and threats, you can, use this. And now, in terms of the portfolio, for example, somewhere I will be doing maxi-maxi, somewhere I'll be doing maxi-mini, somewhere I'll be doing mini-max, kind of strategies. So in a way, this slide also helps you integrate Ansoff with the other matrices, and I always believe in integration, because once the basic idea is clear, then I guess I can negotiate with any subtopic within the syllabus, and therefore in today's session we have tried hard to integrate the remaining elements that were left over from the previous session on 5th September, and present a coherent whole of the strategic dynamics of competitive. So here, as I said, we really moved ahead for the internal and external analysis, and we linked this analysis to the origin in the what you call the learning curve and PLC, and we saw that how the SWOT analysis is a more generalized version of these matrices, because these matrices take proxies to the SWOT. For example, they look at the existing products or the new products as the indicative of the firm capability, and the markets as the environmental, kind of situation. So SWOT analysis generalizes it, because it looks at not only the markets, but also the larger political, economic, social, and technological, kind of a context of the firm. I have already, kind of elaborated that globalization, is both, it can be looked at in 2 perspectives in terms of the firm's competitive strategy in the global arena, firm internationalization process that I have talked about, and globalization can also be viewed as comprising supra environment, for the firms that may not be even globalized, because those global influences, global forces operate even on the local businesses. Um, we are nearing the conclusion of this session, and I hope I would be very happy if I were to take any questions. Mancha has tried to summarize this session that organizational success is a function of good strategy formulation and proper implementation. Mansha, we will when go to the kind of implementation discussion, we will see that, for example, Tom Peters has identified 7 attributes of excellent organizations on the hard side and the soft side. And typically, when we say it is the strategy, structure, and culture, and this is the triadic, kind of understanding of the firm, that determines its success. So we will be definitely going to it. Why are we keen on converting dogs into question marks? No, I had only hinted that if we, it is not that we cannot do anything about the dogs. And as I said, there are revival kind of strategies, nostalgic attributes to certain products. That will lend them into a kind of a legacy and a, archival value and antique value, as if it were, and that becomes a business. For example, today you would never ever see a what you call phonogram, right? But if you go to some old junk dealer and so on, those phonograms are now antique businesses, right? And whose material cost will be just a couple of ₹100, but you will get it for ₹1,000,000. If not. So if we can add an antique value, if we can add a nostalgic value for the dogs, maybe we can still persist with them. Thank you so much for being there for this session. I will be meeting next in on 11th, where I will be taking up chapter 3. Thank you so much. Vijayji, can we call it a day? Vijayji, can we call it a day, please? ओवर हो गया।